Good afternoon. How are you doing today? Well, Thomas Jefferson has been working overtime to the extent that he can, from the great beyond, influence the weather today. But I'd like to believe it was possible. I'd like to think that he would like it a little warmer than it's been. And so today he's given us a 74-degree Fahrenheit day. Not bad. No wind, as still as standing before a principal who's accusing you of being late for school. And the sun is out, even though I'm getting out late. I was doing a lot of writing today, so that takes me out of the normal time frame, even when we hop forward with the time. So that's enough of the weather forecast. So what's going on? It may not be the most important thing, but he's such a hateful character that his representative gets from Florida, and that I have to go to him first. He's been subpoenaed to discuss whether or not he really did have sex with a 17-year-old, which made me wonder, did the government not call him before a grand jury and ask him these questions? You know, no man is above the law, but when Getz is even above the law, really, some people are really above the law, way above the law, out of sight above the law. And he had that peculiar campaign running around everywhere with Congresswoman Green, you know, so they were a victim and so forth. And Getz at one point said that the 17-year-old they were supposedly having relations with doesn't exist. That's what he said. However, that 17-year-old apparently is involved in a lawsuit brought by his friend, and he's been subpoenaed in that lawsuit, and he is not a party to the lawsuit, and they're going to have the deposition on April 5th. Bring the Coca-Cola and popcorn. I'd like to be at that deposition. But that's not going to happen, so we'll have to wait and see if the 17-year-old doesn't exist as admitted by Gates, who may get caught by his earlier statements, not under oath as far as I know, and what he has to say today. So what a shame it would be if somebody kicked him out for messing around with gals. Seems to be a problem in the Republican Party. You know, Trump is with Stormy Daniels, and Getz is with 17-year-olds. These guys must have lived a very unusual life to be in those circumstances and to act that way. I don't know. So, what's going on with Florida's Judge Luce Cannon? Luce, remember, is the word I had given for her performance in court, if you will. Now, Trump's come in, and he has said he wants to dismiss all these charges because the Espionage Act is just too vague. And because it's vague, he wants it all expunged, the whole thing dismissed, and to go away. And after all, he is a person who enjoys great immunity, and you shouldn't be able to chase him for that reason. And he has this great theory, I call it the magic wand theory, in which Trump looks across a room at all of the documents before him, and he says, "Zippo dippo, no longer are you confidential, you're now personal." Now, special counsel Jack Smith has no patience for this, but it took him hours of arguing today, and the magic wand was pulled out by Trump's counsel, and perhaps Luce Cannon is befuddled by the whole thing, and Trump came to the court, although he's not required to do so, and he probably came there so he could be a coercive presence. I can't imagine spending any time with that guy. I mean, putting aside all the politics and everything, who wants to be with a guy like this? Who wants to support a guy like this? So, the other question down in the Florida case is, so when are we going to try this sucker? Now, the trial date was May, and I don't know if it was May 20th, I think it was. And the government said we could do this by July 8th, 2024. And the defense, Trump's team, wants August the 12th. In other words, they want to push it to a date past when the election is over, so that they then at least won't have this as a factor in the election. Amazing, isn't it? So that's we don't know what the judge thinks about any of these things. We'll find out. And this is a really good example of chaos math, that tiny iterations at the beginning, over time, as things change, can cause, well, one of the examples is a butterfly wing causes a tsunami elsewhere in the world. But in this case, after the data point that this judge was going to be bending over in positions that one can only imagine in order to help Trump, and the court, such that the Court of Appeals reproached her for it, and then Jack Smith doesn't go into court and seek her recusal based on what she's already done, based on what the Court of Appeals said. Now it's too late. Has it been waived? What additional examples can you have? Because she's gotten smarter about how to do it. And did we want Trump to be in the room with her suggesting, you know, if I win, you could get to the Court of Appeals? What people are willing to sell out for. And a lot of these judges are miserable. They get upset. They don't make enough money. They rush through the cases. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And some resign to go back to practice law and earn more money. I saw this as a young law clerk in New York. I'm not saying they didn't do it in a classy way. There were some outstanding judges lost to the system because they weren't being paid enough at a time when judges had families and couldn't afford the things they thought were necessary for their families. So there's that. Changing to international, Schumer is calling for an election in Israel to throw out Netanyahu. Well, that's interesting. What about instead talking about something you can do? We're not going to give you a goddamn dime until you try to figure out how we have a ceasefire and how we can keep Israel safe and how we can have both sides stop killing each other. You know, how about a conversation like that? Isn't that what it's really all about? You know, I love Schumer. I was his counsel in the House when he was campaigning to become a U.S. Senator. And he has got a focus like a laser beam when he does something. And I just wish he'd turn in a different direction. In the category of additional dirty laundry, we have Kate Middleton is now not wearing her wedding ring. And everybody is going crazy about that. And we still don't know what her health situation is. So now in politics as anything else, people say the greatest compliment you can pay someone is to mimic their behavior. Now, I think what you're mimicking should be worthy of mimicking to begin with, and we all have our standards. Now, Senator Menendez in New Jersey is now saying he enjoys legislative immunity, and what he did was not bribery, but sharing information. And the government's jumping up and down saying, nah, that's not going to work. That's just not going to do it. And I finish up with an annoying story. As I understand it, DA Bragg in New York is telling the court that they don't have to start on March 25th. They can do it 30 days later in April. Now, it's not out of the blue in this sense. There's been a whole bunch of documents that the DA's office got, and they're making it available to the defense, and they're willing to extend the time so the defense can review the documents. And I expect the defense, that is Trump, will come in and say, yeah, you know, we really need 2 months. So I would like to know how these documents got produced so late. Is the Southern District of New York holding on to documents? Or did Bragg only ask for the documents of late? If it sounds that I'm not trusting Bragg If there's any lesson that we've gotten since 2015, when Trump started rumbling around trying to change America to a monarchy when it's really a democracy, it is that you can't trust any of these players. They sell out for a pat on the ass. That's it. That's what it takes for some of them. A promise. You'll become a judge. I'll bring you in the cabinet. I'll take care of your kid's criminal case. I won't let the world know you're cheating on your wife. I mean, who knows? I'll break your legs if you don't do what I want you to do. If you think this stuff isn't going on, then you're living in the land of civic affairs that wasn't true when we were taught it as kids, and it is certainly at a low level of respect these days since Trump's come on the scene. There have been high and low places in American government. There was a time when members of Congress were compensated almost by an agreed upon schedule to do things for the public. And if you think of even the current laws, and I was involved in prosecution of a congressman, Dan Flood, from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and a lot of other corruption cases, but that was my sole Congress case, if you will, with others. Say the night before a bill is on the floor, they have a gathering for you. People drink wine, champagne, finger food. They cluster in corners. Then somebody gets up and makes a speech saying what a great congressman Mr. Mephistopheles is. And then they give him a plaque and a big check, 5 and 5, or whatever the election law allows. Or they bundle. That is to say, everybody in the room gives him $5,000. And then the next day he votes for the bill. Is that bribery? Is that a gratuity? How do you do that right? And if that's okay, how far away is that from what is an illegal gratuity or a bribe? And years ago, I'm not sure if it was around the Civil War. I'm not sure. I don't trust my memory for the period. But it was open season on do you own your congressman or not? And you see it when people come up on the Hill and they've got all sorts of gold jewelry and multi-$1,000 suits and shoes that cost as much as somebody's car and pens that eke overexpensive for the task that a pen does. So that's the environment, and they invite you to speak somewhere, and they put you up in this gorgeous hotel, and then they come to your office someday they want something. And a lot of people do whatever they want. So, is that what we're dealing with now in this Congress in its waning days? A humiliating aggregation of self-interested minor players who don't have the character that an Aristotle or other past philosopher would think was necessary to have a stable and fair and good and neutral government. So that's our challenge. And this election will tell us who is America and what we had to do to block the door to criminal Trump. And whether we succeed or not will determine, for most of us, what the rest of our life under government is. And those who are older may see some of the protections of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, pensions from the government compromised. And the opportunities for others may change, and the civil service proceedings may be different under a person like Trump. So here we are on this beautiful day out here in my cathedral of trees, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. All the best. Bye-bye.